Well, hello again. Welcome to another great episode of the Flagship podcast. And so today I'm excited to have a pretty fun guest, somebody who probably speaks a similar language to me in the sense of a love of coffee, but also just a love of community. And so I would like to introduce Mr. Josh Stafford, or is it Joshua? What do you prefer?
Either one.
Okay.
I'm good.
Joshua
Yep.
Stafford, owner of Grow West LLC, which is also Jackrabbit Coffee, which is a staple here in Anderson, and also Little Shop of Floras with his wife.
Man, we're excited.
Oh, it's cool what you guys are doing. For the audience, just to sort of kick us off, I mean, I threw some names out there, but tell us a little bit about what you're doing in the community.
Sure. About 10 years ago, I kind of had a light bulb moment for me. I was in construction for almost 2 decades, and I got really frustrated that, I wanted to enhance my neighborhood.
Okay.
And the more and more I realized that it wasn't going to be by fixing up old houses and trying to resell them. I wanted to give people a reason to want to be in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so kind of the light bulb moment was realizing, let's build businesses. Let's build reasons people want to be down here.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the incubator for what we are becoming.
That's interesting. You started in construction. How long were you in construction?
Honestly, in terms of making a living, until about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been doing it your whole life.
Yeah.
Almost.
I wasn't on the payroll of Grow West.
Sure.
Quite yet. Even you gotta slog it out for a few years.
Absolutely.
And pay everyone else to
make it happen.
To make it happen. So
Well, but that's cool that you start from a place of building and continued in just to an evolved sense of building. You went from building, like what you just said, restoring houses, doing things like that, doing construction, to now building a neighborhood, building communities, building businesses.
Yeah.
Which is, again, it seems to be you're just naturally a more creative builder.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I am is because of my dad.
Okay.
My dad was a AU professor for a long
Really?
time.
For those who are listening, AU, Anderson University,
University.
here in the hometown.
And he was actually at the School of Theology, so master's level.
Okay.
And highly educated, really sharp guy. Had opportunities to leave AU and to go to lots of more prestigious universities, and was so committed to Anderson and building the best place he could. Anderson was an important place to him. It was his alma mater.
Okay.
And he had a heart for the church here locally.
Yeah.
So, watching him be so committed to a place, I think it's just built into my DNA, I guess. Seeing that and seeing the joy he found in building up an identity here is a big part of why I do what I do, I think.
That's really good. That's cool that your dad taught theology. I have an MA in theology.
Yeah.
And so
Me too.
Do you really?
Well, MTS.
Okay.
Did
you go to AU, or where'd you go?
I did. Now, to be fair, I did not complete. I don't have the piece of paper.
Hey, it's okay.
I completed all my coursework. I was a philosophy major in college. I went to Asbury University.
Oh, Asbury. Okay.
Down in the Lexington area. Yeah. And loved it, and moved back here specifically to learn under my father. Okay. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a professor.
Okay.
So I came back, did in that time, he got sick. He ended up dying in 2008 of cancer.
Sorry about that.
And too soon.
Yeah.
And just didn't end up finishing. I knew my life was taking a different direction. So I was really struggling to find someone to do my thesis work with.
Yeah.
It was very unique. And I just kind of thought, I'm going to move a different direction here. So, although I'm sure my mother really would have loved me having that piece of paper.
Parents do love that.
It served me no real benefit.
Not for your trajectory.
Long term.
Yeah. No, I definitely can relate to that. So it took me 8 years to graduate undergrad because of life. My dad passed away in 2016.
Okay.
Tragic scenario there, but it was the same thing of like he was sick for a long time. I would drop out, take care of him. He'd get better, try to go back and finish. A constant back and forth.
Yeah.
And then, after he passed, I was just like, I put too much time, money, effort. I just have to finish.
Yeah.
And grinded up the last 2 years online. And then afterwards went and I was like, I think I should go get an MA. And theology is something I love. I can talk about it way too much.
Right on.
And a lot of probably wasted conversations, but just good times, especially over a good beer or coffee.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes the best conversations are over a good beer. So
absolutely.
yeah, but that's cool. I went to Biola, so out on the West Coast.
Yeah,
but
cool.
that's cool. That's cool. I had no clue that was some of your history.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so went through that college route. Towards the end, wasn't worth finishing it up. You were like, it seems like I'm headed on a different trajectory. And so when did you notice that? When did that shift change really? Was it like clear, or was it like a spur of the moment, like, oh, I'm going somewhere else?
It was fairly clear after he died specifically.
Okay.
I think anytime you have those kind of events, you reevaluate lots of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
The big thing for me is I got married a couple years before he passed, and I wanted to start a family. The idea of going down the academic route and moving around and being close to family was important. So all those kind of things were shifting. None of this is a tragic story. It was all things that I felt good about.
Yeah,
the direction that things were turning. So when I moved back here in 2003 after college, I originally rented downtown Anderson, but in 2005 bought an old Victorian house on West 11th Street.
Okay.
And kind of the rest has become history, I guess.
So you said 2011 you bought down there?
2005.
Oh, 2005.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so almost 20 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's been home.
It's been home, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now share that mission of 11th Street became home. Now share how that vision for the audience, how that evolved, and now what that mission is exactly.
Yeah. So like I said, about 10 years ago, I was doing construction, and that light bulb moment I had where I was flipping houses. I was doing home remodels, room additions, a lot of bathrooms, kitchens, stuff like that, which I enjoy. And it's a skill set I'll have for the rest of my life, and it really benefits what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
It's a great way to offset cost of development, which is really the way I see Grow West. We're a small boutique development company, and our focus is basically one little stretch of West 11th Street.
Yeah.
And, so that light bulb moment, about 10 years ago, 2014, 15, somewhere in there, I just realized, we started acquiring property.
Okay.
Other than the home I lived in, I bought a little building, which a lot of older people, maybe in Madison County or Anderson area, would know as the old Hot Dog Circus or Big Top Drive-In.
Okay.
This was a staple. It's right next to the Wigwam downtown, Anderson High School, the old Anderson High School. So all the old Anderson High School students of a certain era remember they had open lunches. They could walk over. And so it was a very popular place for, I think 40 plus years in Anderson, and particularly to the Anderson High School crowd. So that old building sits at basically the corner of West 11th and John Street. So catty corner from like the old Robinson Elementary School, right behind the Wigwam. So that was the first commercial building that I bought.
Okay. And when you bought it, what was the thought, the dream? Yeah.
So interestingly, I almost bought it 2 years before for about 4 times the cost.
Okay.
I'm glad I didn't do that, but was gonna just use it as my construction office, kind of I didn't exactly know
Yeah.
what. And so as things changed over the next year or two, actually, one of my best friends, Ben Orcutt, had opened Buckskin Bikes right down the road. And
this is the story I am familiar with.
Yeah. So, and about a year into that, I was just popping in every morning. I mean, my day started early. He would open up early, and he had built this coffee cart that his sole reason was he just wanted to get people into his bike shop.
Yeah.
Ben's a really cool guy. I don't know if you know Ben, but I love him. And
he's very entrepreneurial himself.
Oh gosh, we were
creative.
Two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
And I'd go in there and we'd just, talk and dream and talk about what we wanted to see. And we both lived in on the street in the neighborhood. And one morning he said, because his bike shop was starting to take off, and he said, this needs to either grow or die. It was tough to be working on a greasy bike and have to scrub your hands and get over and make a latte.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't ideal.
Yeah.
So, tough to stay clean and stay, there are a lot of challenges there. And within about 3 weeks, I had bought an ownership stake in Jackrabbit Coffee.
Okay.
And I said, let's put it in my building next door.
There we go.
And I loved coffee. I always have, but never envisioned.
Never thought you'd be a coffee shop owner.
Yeah. But absolutely love community and love the idea of building a community-centric gathering place. I mean, the whole notion of like the town square, it's gone.
It is.
And it exists in these, I mean, gosh, I remember in, my college years, your bartender. I mean, those were your people.
Yeah.
I mean, even when my dad, I told you, my dad passed away in 2008, the whole staff of the bar we went to all the time, they stood in line for 3.5 hours just to pay their condolences. Things like that matter.
Yeah, well, and I say like modern day, the people that are trusted is your bartender and your barber.
Yeah,
like those are the two types of people that are trusted. Like those are the ones you talk to about life. Right. Now it's your bartender, your barber, and your barista. All still same B's, but
so all of a sudden realizing we could create this place that gave meaning to our place, to our neighborhood, a place to gather, a place to bring people together. And I mean, we have, realtors meet there to sign papers with their clients and lots of meetings. And
I've had meetings there.
Yeah. And we don't have a huge place,
It's cozy.
It's cozy. Although when the weather's nice, we've got a back patio area now, and we've got lots of plans to kind of expand that footprint, at least outside space.
Yeah.
But it's the sole reason we didn't do a drive-through.
Totally.
That was so important to us. We want people coming in. We want to get to know them, to talk to them, and that's another big piece of the influence of my family, my home life on hospitality is really where my heart is, and being genuine hospitality. So for instance,
not Southern hospitality. Oh, bless their heart. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Real hospitality.
Well, my father was born and raised in Missouri, so the boot heel of Missouri, and so I think a lot of it was genuine Southern hospitality in his world. But regardless, we wanted, for instance, with our employees. We don't give them a spiel that they need to say to what I instruct my employees is, you need to be hospitable, but in a way that's authentic to you. I want it to be authentic hospitality. Yeah. So, if for someone that's, hey, what's up? What's going on? What can I get for you today? I want it to be genuine to them. And for others, it might be, welcome or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
But
you don't want it to be scripted.
No, not at all. I want it to be genuine, and I want it to be engaging, and we get to know we've got fantastic customers, and our big philosophy is we don't have customers, we have community. And so we want to get to know them, what they're drinking.
Yeah.
The beauty of someone coming in and having a really crappy day and going, today's on us. That ability to not be sterile, not be is just, it's a beautiful thing, and I just love it.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Well, and you don't find it often in I would even just say general American communities.
Yeah.
Because Americans, I'm first generation American, and so growing up, my dad immigrated here from India.
Okay.
And the culture there is very different from the culture here. Here, everybody is very individualistic, things like that, and not in a bad way. That's not me saying it in a bad way. Like, I think there's merit to that.
Right.
But in other cultures, everything's overlapped. Everybody's in each other's business, and it's not a bad thing either.
Right.
And so, here to find what a lot of the world calls as community, what you're talking about, that where life can overlap, where you can talk to maybe a quote unquote stranger that works at your local coffee shop, but share a real moment with them.
Absolutely.
I think that's necessary for us to build healthy communities, because I think a lot of that's been lost over the years.
Yeah.
So okay, so now we heard a little bit about Jackrabbit. Now tell us about how Grow West is now even growing further to now a whole different industry.
Yeah. So, about 7 years ago, like I said, I bought an ownership stake of Jackrabbit.
Yep.
But the bike shop was really taking off, and that was kind of becoming its own thing, Ben's World. And I've never had anything to do with the bike shop.
Okay.
But the coffee shop was also really taking off, and that was kind of my baby. And so pretty early on, and Ben is still one of my best friends. He stood up with me at my wedding, and to my wonderful wife Sharon. We realized and started to work towards buying him out, and so finally, a few years ago, we finally finalized that.
Okay,
and came under the umbrella name of Grow West, because our idea was to grow the West Central District.
Cool.
And my wife and I, of course, the only brand identity at that time was Jackrabbit Coffee, under this Grow West umbrella. But the idea is that kind of what I had jotted down in my notebook, my little steno pad 10 years ago was, I want to have 4 businesses on the street, within like a 20-year window. That was my 20-year plan.
Okay.
And so Jackrabbit Coffee was number 1. And when we finally finalized the buyout and getting all that stuff separated, we really started to think about, okay, what's next?
What's number 2?
And, what I tell other entrepreneurs is, first and foremost, find something you love, because things you love are easy to sell.
It is. It's easy to live for, too.
Yeah, exactly. And life's too short to not surround yourself with stuff that you love doing.
Yeah.
And so
I've watched so many friends work very well-paying gigs, and they're miserable every day because they aren't doing what they love.
Yeah.
And I'm in full agreement with you that you need to be able to wake up and be happy with your life you're creating for yourself.
Yeah.
If you're not doing that, doesn't matter how much money, doesn't matter how much notoriety, all these different things. You just got to wake up and be satisfied with the work in front of you and not dread Mondays.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, that's really good.
So yeah, at that point we started to think, what's next? And my wife had a long career as a stylist, hairstylist, and that's a tough way to make a living in terms of physically on your body.
Sure.
Standing on concrete all the time. Your arms are raised, and there's a lot of challenges as the decades start to mount.
Yeah.
And so we were looking for a transition for her.
Okay.
And one thing that's been a staple and a love of her life has been houseplants.
Okay.
And, at first, I love just having the houseplants in the house, and it brought a new energy. It brought a different kind of vibe.
How many plants do you guys have?
Oh gosh, man.
Can you even keep count?
It's over 200 in our house.
In your house,
Yeah.
200?
Yeah.
I thought my house was bad. My
Well,
wife is all about, like, when
To
she
be
heard
fair,
there
it's
was
our business, but
when she heard there was a new house plant shop coming, I was like, I shouldn't have told you this. So you're definitely going to get a customer out of us.
right on. But obviously we've got a lot of starts and
Sure.
things like that. But I think the last time she went through and counted, because I was always giving her a hard time about
That's
it.
hilarious. That's amazing.
And that will diminish some
Sure,
as
they'll
we
move.
open up our new space and stuff. But anyways, find something that you love. And the more I looked into the market of what was the potential there, and the way in which, I'm excited about our new endeavor, which is Little Shop of Floras, which is a name derived as a spinoff of Little Shop of Horrors, which is my wife's absolute favorite musical.
Amazing musical.
Which is about a strange and interesting, plant shop.
Yeah. If you haven't watched it, you should go watch it.
yeah.
Whoever's listening, it's worth the watch. You'll be like, what the heck am I watching? But it's worth the watch.
Absolutely. I'm very excited. The end of February, I'm taking my wife to New York to see it off Broadway.
That's a great way to.
We actually fly out the morning after the pitch.
Okay.
Like hours after the pitch.
Hopefully to celebrate.
Yeah, we'll see.
And so, well, while he said that, because I mean, we'll touch on a lot of things, and we probably have about 10, 15 minutes left. So Josh here with Grow West is one of our pitch finalists for this year, and so that is another exciting thing that's sort of how we've crossed paths.
Yeah.
Because I heard his name in the community, but this had allowed us to connect, and I mean, again, they're doing exciting things and growing the West Central District.
We're trying to, man.
And so you guys will be keeping. So tell us a little bit about that endeavor so far, of like how you guys, as you've been launching this business, but also it's an expansion of Grow West.
Yeah.
How that sort of looks, the complications, the complexities, but also maybe the fun you guys are having of like getting to dream and see it come to life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, we've been acquiring property. So the building that we're moving into, I can literally walk out the coffee shop and throw a coffee bean and hit what will be
That's cool.
A Little Shop of Floras. So we basically have been on a slow rollout this last year of just starting to introduce Little Shop of Floras branded items at our coffee shop.
Okay.
Kind of to test the market and to see what the possibilities were, and had great success.
Okay.
I mean, I think we didn't start until Q2 of 2023. We sold maybe 1,000 different units of Little Shop of Floras branded items.
Okay.
Just trying to test the market. And the beautiful thing about, a big advantage that our entrepreneurial endeavors have is this philosophy of density, that we're putting these businesses as we grow. And this is a lifelong pursuit of mine. I mean, I don't want people to think like we would just want to be serial entrepreneurs. We want to build up this corner.
Sure.
It may take 20 years.
Sure.
It may take that full.
Well, it may even be multi-generational.
Yeah, absolutely. And I grew up in Anderson remembering, playing Little League and having the same local businesses that were always on your T-shirts, whether it's Jean's Root Beer or the Lemon Drop or, maybe Roby's Plumbing. And these places that have been here for decades. Yeah. But they're stalwarts in the community, and Frazier's, and I mean the list. I don't want to start naming because I'm going to leave everyone off. But these places, as a kid, largely around ice cream, probably. But these businesses, I wanted to have businesses like that. I wanted to have businesses that were around for 20, 30, 40 years.
Again, and you've said this, but you're not in it just to make an income or do something for yourself.
Goodness, no.
You're in coffee. It
I would
doesn't
have
make
stayed
an
in
income.
construction.
But you're here to create community, which means
Absolutely.
not just physical community, but also being philanthropic in ways and giving back and letting kids maybe have an opportunity to have a good uniform and things like that. Like
Right.
all those things are impactful at whether you want to see it at the smallest minutia or to the grandiose scale, like all those impact.
Look, I mean, Anderson has tons of challenges. There's
Sure.
tons of obstacles here. There's a lot of things going on. We're still digging our way out of the shadows of industry past. But despite all those challenges, my feeling is and at least what I'm working towards is that one of my biggest issues is I think we have a narrative problem.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that, you know, it's very hard for people to see outside of those struggles, and I understand why. But we're not short of detractors and people that want to name all these obstacles that we have. But I feel like we have been short of the people that are championing what is good, what is positive, the opportunity that's here. And so I'm not pretending like this makes the other things go away.
Sure.
We just need to raise our voice and to say, look, there is opportunity here. There are positive things happening, and we want to be cheerleaders. Yeah. So even with other local, even with other local businesses, you know, we've had other businesses come into town that may even be in kind of competition to what we're doing, but we don't really see it like that.
Totally.
We see that we are so far from like a saturation point that we need to be rah about everything that's cool, that's happening, you know, whether it's breweries, wineries, you know, other restaurants and things like that. I mean, service industry stuff, retail stuff is kind of our wheelhouse. So that's kind of our world. But we want to be supportive of them. We want to tell our customers about them, you know, because one, it's a good look.
Yeah.
And it's the right thing to do for our community. I mean,
and that's, I think, even bigger. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah. And, you know, okay, maybe you have a down week because lots of people are going, but you're going to gain those people back. You're going to, you know, people don't want to see this. They want to see it as one thing. We have a wonderful, what I call local warriors. I mean, they show up at every event. They're your regulars. And we want to introduce other things to them because they're evangelists. Yeah. And so, you know, to me, it's just good business to go about it this way. And like I said, it's the right thing to do for our community. I mean, and that's paid off over time. I mean, like I said, you know, this isn't a sprint for us. This is a marathon. We see ourselves here for our life. This is our community. And so, you know, it is certainly the financial aspect for me. I look at more as long-term ownership of property. Totally. I'm not trying to pull money out of Jackrabbit to go to Cabo or, you know, I mean.
Again, if you want to get money, coffee shop is not the route.
No, sir. No, sir. And, you know, that's why we've really resisted doing a lot of food, too, is like, if we can't be sustainable just selling coffee, then, you know, we probably shouldn't be doing it. And, again, sustainability has really been the only goal. It hasn't been extreme profitability. Because for me, the value, the long-term value is in the property and the business identity. So as long as we can be sustainable, and we have tried and worked very hard over the last few years to get our employees to what people call a livable wage, so to speak. So most of, all of them average with tips, you know, above livable wage is what we would say. I don't need to get into all the specifics.
No, that's a great thing to do.
But that's been an investment on our part.
Oh, absolutely.
And we had years in which that was coming out of my pocket. But it's paying off. It's working. It is working back out, and we keep our employees generally. I mean, a service, you're going to have turnover,
of course.
But building goodwill with your staff is a big part of it, not just building with your community, but building it with your staff too.
I mean, we only have a few minutes left, and I feel like you just hit into some really good things, and now I'm like, okay, so a few things.
We'll sign off and go get that beer and keep going.
Well, a few things I want to touch on because, like, I've been here in Anderson for coming up on 4 years now.
Right on.
And it's become home. I have at least 2 properties now, building a home, building a business. We've talked about that a little bit. Go to church in the community. Like, everything is here for me and my wife.
Yeah.
Had our first child here, having our second child here.
That's awesome.
But one of the things you said, there are a few things. The first thing I want to point on is, like, trying to get away from that zero-sum mentality.
Yeah.
I've been here only 4 years, and that's been the thing I've heard constantly of, like, a lot of people still see that zero-sum game where there's not enough to go around. There's not enough to collaborate. You're my competitor. We need to be against each other, whatever it is. But nobody would, of course, directly say that. It's all, like, passive, and it's just how we live our lives.
Yeah.
But it's like we need more people like you who are advocates for collaboration, who are advocates to really get rid of that silo mentality and say, how can we build a better community together? Even if that means, hey, some months I'm down, some months you're up, some months you're down, some months I'm up, and that back and forth collaboration. The other thing you said that I think is great, because I was talking to another entrepreneur in the community about this not too long ago, and I'll probably get in trouble for this, but I'm going to call you crazy because I'm crazy too, because to be an entrepreneur takes a certain level of unhingedness.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned this, but there's an ability that an entrepreneur has to see the future that could be. And we don't always quite see reality as reality.
Yeah.
We see the opportunity that reality can pose to us. And you were talking about that, where you're like, a lot of people will see maybe what is, but you look to the future and you see what can be. And as you're building towards the can be, a lot of people who can't see that are like, well, you're crazy.
Yeah.
And to somebody who can't see it, yeah, you are crazy.
My wife and I have this conversation a lot. I look at it slightly different. For me personally, it's not craziness. It's that I don't operate under fear. I always ask my wife, what's the worst that can happen?
What's the worst?
Well, we could lose all of this
Stuff.
Okay. Well, I mean,
What's
the worst that
I think a lot of people listening just got a little uncomfortable, because that is truth right there.
It's just
Fear.
Yeah, I don't operate under fear, and I never have. Now, that has at some points not been a great thing.
Sure.
So but it's certainly an attribute that's helped me do what we do. Is that, I mean, when you watch your account go from here to here in a matter of weeks, and then you can't ride that way. The best parenting advice I ever got was a good friend of mine, an older gentleman. And, I've got a 12-year-old daughter.
Okay.
And I remember last year saying to him, like, I'm really nervous about the way in which I'm going to be a dad to a teenager.
Sure.
And he said, look, she's getting ready to get on a roller coaster. We all do.
Yeah.
Your single job is to not get on. Be that consistent person to her. And that's a big part of the way I operate my business, is that you can't ride every wave. You've got to be that consistent. Your employees don't need to know every, up and down. Your client, your customers, your clients, they don't need to know this ride, because all of us are on it.
Yeah.
Stay consistent. Be consistent to your community and to your customers, and it'll pay off. And you know what? It usually does.
Yeah.
As long as you're not a moron. As long as you're not a moron. You don't just constantly screw it up. Excuse us.
So I'll end with this question, because you said something very powerful. And so for those who are listening, those who maybe want to be an entrepreneur, maybe those who are crippled by fear, what's maybe for you a best practice you've found to help you walk through that fear when you are approached by it, dealing with that fear? Because we all have it. And so it isn't that you're fearless, it's that you choose to face fear.
Yeah.
And so for you, what's something you've done, or what's maybe a best practice, if you have something?
Yeah,
Sorry if I'm throwing you on the spot.
I mean, my wife asks me this question all the time because she's kind of the opposite of
That's how my wife is.
Yeah, and
she's super stable. I'm super unstable.
Okay. And I don't really know. I know that you should pursue something you love. You should do the homework. Get your ducks in a row, because if you've put in the work to understand what needs to happen, understand the numbers, but realize you're going to ride a roller coaster. Yeah. You're going to be getting on, and you have to keep that vision as what you're working towards. And sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it's really hard to do that. But we're still here. We survived COVID. We survived. I mean,
you guys did.
And you know what? That was because of our community and because of the goodwill we had built up with them. Yeah. Is my belief, at least, is that the more you invest in people that, like I said, we don't have customers, we have community, and the more that we've invested in them, they came through for us. And they showed up, and we our doors were closed for about 8 to 10 weeks, I believe. We didn't have to, but we just didn't have the foot traffic to stay open.
Totally.
We were bleeding. But I don't know that I have a secret to it or any great advice other than it's something I really think people should work towards, is of being fearless. What's the word? That's the question. What's the worst that can happen? We have each other. I look at my wife and I go, we got a good life together. Yeah. What's the worst that can happen? We have less money. We'll be okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's so good.
Well,
it's truly what you value.
We could go back to construction. Yeah. She could go back to doing hair. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Well, we have skills.
What's great is the things that you value can't actually be taken away from you.
No, absolutely not.
That's I think what's so amazing. Yeah. The things that you actually value and cherish that you've created your life around.
Right.
Community, people, your neighborhood, like.
Yeah. And that's one thing, we sell coffee, but is that really what we're selling?
Yeah.
And we're selling community. We're selling, supporting local. There's other things that we're selling that we're valuing.
Totally.
And, it's sometimes tough to talk about those things in terms of the marketplace because you go, well, yeah, but it's still transactional here. And I'm not pretending like it's not. I mean, people come in and we realize that a $6, $7, $8 cup of coffee is a luxury.
Totally.
It's not, we're not accessible to everyone all the time. And we respect that and know that, but unfortunately it's the cost to be sustainable, not to be rich or profitable, just to be sustainable. Totally. And so, I wish we had more time. $3 lattes, but that's not the world.
Hey, well, Josh, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, man.
It's cool to hear more about your story, your heart. I'm glad anybody listening, I will echo what Josh said. Stay local, support these small businesses because a lot of them aren't in it for the money. They're in it for exactly what you're saying, Josh.
Absolutely.
In it for community, in it to make home a good place.
Yeah. There's a lot of them. I wish I could highlight them all today because I can tell you about a ton of them.
Well, hopefully we'll get some of them on here in the future.
Absolutely.
Well, everybody, thank you for listening. Obviously, like, share, subscribe. Shout local names off the rooftops. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Flagship podcast, sponsored by Pinnacle Systems. Visit our YouTube channel for the full-length video podcast or find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. New podcasts are posted every month, featuring local leaders from Central Indiana. For more content, follow us on social media at Flagship Enterprise Center. Until next time, thanks for listening.